Hello guys, welcome back, and today I'm going to be doing my Team Canada 2019 World Junior Championship roster predictions. Now, Team Canada's roster going into this year's World Junior Championships, it begs the question, which players will end up getting the spot on the team, and of course, what will the roster actually end up looking like? Now, Team Canada this year is looking to get it done to win gold once again, and after winning the gold medal in last year's tournament, they're going to want to get a back-to-back gold medal winners, and with Canada, they got a lot of expectations. With this team, they could surprise a lot of different people. While this Canada team, I don't think is the favorite to win, with my projected lineup, I don't think you can count these guys out, and they'll definitely be in the mix. Now, when it comes to my lineup, I try to get a good mixture of older guys, older 19-year-olds, mixed in with some 17-year-olds throughout the different Canadian leagues. But when it comes down to it, this team is pretty solid. They got a lot of variety, and I feel like this team is bound to compete. Now we're going to be going for the 4 forward lines. We're going to go for the 3 defensive pairings. We're going to go for the goaltending, the power play 1, the penalty kill 1, and of course the extra forwards and the extra skaters. Now we're going to start with the first line for Team Canada for their forward group, and for their first line, I have Morgan Frost on the left side, Philadelphia Flyers prospect. For the center, the number 1 center, I have Cody Glass for the Vegas Golden Knights. And on the right side, you got Trey Fix-Wolanski of the Columbus Blue Jackets. Now this line, I think, can do a lot of damage, especially on the offensive end, where guys like Morgan Frost are absolutely killing it in the OHL. And I feel like this potential first line could work very, very well. We'll just start with Morgan Frost, who right now is leading the entire OHL in points, of course, as I'm recording this, but he's been absolutely amazing, and he'll definitely get a big shot in the World Junior Championships. Then you got Cody Glass, who's still playing very, very well in the WHL. I think one of the more older players in this entire roster, but I feel like he'll get a big chance for how well he's played. And then you got Trey Fix-Wolanski, who was a 7th round pick a couple of years ago, has really risen up the ranks. Last year, he had a great season, and this year he's on pace to even break that one in the WHL. So I got a lot of hope in him, and I think he can have a big role with the World Junior Championships team as long as he gets paired against some solid centers. And right now, Cody Glass, I feel, could be a big, really chemistry fit for both of them. And what's good about Canada this year, I think, is that they don't have to rely on their first line like maybe some other teams. They got some solid depth, and I feel like that's one of Canada's biggest strengths, is they got a lot of solid scoring depth that they could use throughout the whole lineup. So really, when it comes down to it, while this first line may be good, they might still score a lot. I think they're going to have a lot of other options through the other 3 lines, too. Now we're going to go into the second line, and it starts out with Maxime Comtois of the Anaheim Ducks. Then you have the center as Nick Suzuki of the Montreal Canadiens, and you got Akil Thomas of the Los Angeles Kings. And this line, I think, has as much potential to do well, even better than the first line for Canada. This one could be really solid. Now, we're going to start with Maxime Comtois, who played a few games in the NHL and was really solid with the Anaheim Ducks. I think he can bring massive experience, and having him on the second line is going to do a lot of wonders for Team Canada. Then you got Nick Suzuki, who was a former, of course, Vegas Golden Knights prospect, traded in the Max Pacioretty trade to Montreal, and with that, they got a seriously good prospect. Nick Suzuki has been great in the OHL so far, and I think he'll do very well in the World Junior Championships. He just seems like a guy that is really fit for that tournament type style, and I feel like he'll do very well in that position. Then you got Akil Thomas, who has been playing very well in the OHL as well with the Niagara Ice Dogs. He's been solid, and of course, the Los Angeles Kings are not in a great position right now, so they want to see a guy like Akil Thomas really start to develop and really start to play well. And this second line is definitely a line that I think has potential to carry the load as well. Maxime Comtois having experience in NHL games, Nick Suzuki being one of the brightest prospects in the NHL, Akil Thomas being very solid too. And while I don't see that outscoring the first line, if the first line ends up slumping, this second line could pick it right back up. Now we're going to head off to the third line, and I have Kirby Dach to start out on the left wing. I have Joe Veleno, the Detroit Red Wings prospect, at the center position, and I have Brett Leeson, who is not signed by any team, but he's been absolutely tearing it up in the Western Hockey League, and he's been great. I think he's #1 in scoring in the WHL, so he's been great as well, and Joe Veleno has been amazing so far in the QMJHL, really impressing me as he dropped to 30th overall in last year's draft. And then you got Kirby Dach, who who is looking to be a stud prospect going into this year's NHL draft. Now, I think when it comes to the tournament and the games itself, I think the third line ultimately comes down to Joe Veleno and how he plays. Now, as a center, we know he's a natural-born center, and he's been great in the QMJHL, but I think this third line lives and dies by Joe Veleno and his performance in this tournament. I believe in him to play very, very solid, but it's up to him. Now, I like Graviteh a lot, but I'm not sure if he's going to drive an entire line in the World Junior Championships. I wouldn't go that far, but Brett Leeson on the other side, on the right side, is a pretty solid guy. So, this third line has a lot of potential. Of course, Graviteh, I think, is a potential top 3 pick in this year's NHL draft, so I think he should at least get some playing time in this year's tournament. Now, on to the fourth line, and this one, I think, might be one of the best fourth lines in maybe the entire tournament. Now, for the fourth line, I got Alexis Lafreniere on the left wing, then I have Barrett Hayden at the center position, Arizona Coyotes prospect, and on the right side, I have Untitled Dallas Stars prospect. Now, this line, I think, has a ton of potential. Now, just to start out, Alexis Lafreniere is the #1 pick going into 2020. That's pretty much a consensus right now. While there are some good people that are saying otherwise, he is probably the most likely favorite there. So I think he could possibly get some time in this year's World Junior Championships. Now, of course, he is a 2020 guy, so he is a lot younger than a lot of people in this tournament. But even then, I think he is so good to a point where he needs to get some games in the World Junior Championships, and that may be something that Canada tries to really be creative. So while I think it might be risky to put Alexis Lafreniere in the lineup, I'm almost sure that he'll be on the team at some point, at some extent, just because the kid is so freaking good that it's kind of laughable at this point. He's almost leading the QMJHL at the age that he is at is just ridiculous, and to see him play so well is kind of amazing. So I feel like he will be able to get a spot in at least a couple of games. I'm rooting for him, and I think he ultimately will get a spot, and I'm hoping at least he gets 4 line minutes. Now, of course, we got 2 other beauties on that line. Barrett Hayden of the Arizona Coyotes. He's been tearing it up in the OHL after being called a bust right after being drafted, which was hilarious, but he's been great. Then you got Untitled, who has really improved on his overall game defensively, face-off-wise, in one of the worst SCHL teams in history, so he's definitely producing on a pretty terrible team, so I feel like he'll at least get a look for that, and of course, as a Dallas Stars fan, I would love to see at least one of our forwards make it on the Canada roster, and Untitled is definitely a good fit. For the extra forwards, I'm going to start out with Dylan Cozens, who looks to be a top prospect in the 2019 NHL draft. I just had him out because I had some guys that were higher than him, but I feel like Dylan Cozens deserves a spot in this World Junior Championships roster, just because I think he might be a top 5 pick, and he has some serious talent that I think he should show in this year's tournament. Now, the other extra forward I have is Connor Dewar of the Minnesota Wild. He's been absolutely amazing so far in the WHL with the Everett Silvertips, and while he is a little bit older than some of the guys on this roster so far, I feel like he's played too good to a point where he has to be at least considered for this roster. Now, since we're finally done with the forward group, let's head on to the defense, and man, this is a pretty solid one. And let's get started with that first pairing, baby. Oh my gosh, it's pretty good. And Evan Bouchard as the right defenseman. Now, Ty Smith, of course, New Jersey Devils prospect, Bouchard being the Edmonton Oilers prospect. Bouchard playing a few games in the NHL before being returned and reassigned back to the OHL. Ty Smith almost made the New Jersey Devils this past season. So I feel like both players are obvious bets for the NHL next season. Both are really, really ready for that. So I feel like both players are going to be really, really solid. Ty Smith has been great. Evan Bouchard has been great since returning to the OHL. So I feel like these two are going to quarterback their own line, it seems like. And Canada definitely has a great top 2 with those guys leading the charge. Now, when it comes to the second pairing, I have Pierre-Oliver Joseph, Arizona Coyotes prospect, and Ryan Merkley on the right side, defense, or the San Jose Sharks prospect. Now, this line, or this combo, has a lot of different potential. Now, Pierre-Oliver Joseph, I think he's more of the defensive type, and with Ryan Merkley, he's obviously more of the offensive type. So I feel like we'll have a little bit of a yin and a yang here with this defensive pairing. With Pierre-Oliver Joseph, I have him on the penalty kill, a little bit of a spoilers, but I feel like he'll play that defensive role while Ryan Merkley goes up ahead and tries to get up another breakaway. But when it comes down to it, I feel like this defense pair can do a lot of different things. They can defend, and of course Ryan Merkley can play that offense. So I feel like they're sneaky, and they can do a lot of different things on the ice, which Canada definitely needs. Now, I'm definitely not the biggest fan of Ryan Merkley. Some of you guys know that already, but I feel like he's played well enough offensively with the Guelph Storm so far this season to warrant himself getting a top 4 spot in this year's World Junior Championships. And I feel like he's played well enough. He definitely has a skill set, and he'll definitely be relied on as an offensive driver, which the guy definitely is. On the third defensive line, last but not least, I have Bowen Byram on the left side and Canadians prospect Josh Brook on the right side. Now this has a lot of potential, I feel, and especially with Bowen Byram, who could potentially be a top 5 pick in this year's NHL draft. He has a lot of potential, and while the coaches might have him more of as a healthy scratch, I feel like he deserves the playing time. I think he will get that playing time heading into this year's World Junior Championships. And on Josh Brook's side of things, he's been fantastic so far in the WHL when it comes to defensive scoring. So I feel like he'll definitely get a big amount of consideration for being in a big defensive role with the Team Canada team. And with Josh Brook, he's vastly exceeded expectations by a lot of different people. And he's starting to really show why he was a second-round pick back in 2017. Now for my 2 extra defensemen, I first have Jarek McIsaac out of the Detroit Red Wings. He so far has played great in the QMJHL, and I feel like he has a big shot to be on that Canadian defense, but the defense is pretty good and it's a pretty deep, so I'm not sure if Jarek McIsaac will quite get there. The other guy I have is Nicholas Beaudin of the Chicago Blackhawks. He's also had a good season in the WHL, and he's played good. When it comes to this Canadian defense, there's a lot of different candidates, and honestly, I could see a lot of ones getting in, but I feel like those 2 will just miss it. Now we're going to head on to the goaltenders, and for my starting goaltender for Team Canada, I have Ian Scott of the Toronto Maple Leafs. Now, this guy has been absolutely lethal in the WHL. I remember back in NHL 17 in franchise mode, I would always draft this guy. He had great potential, I think in like the 2nd round or something. I would always draft him. But, of course, now he is here. He's playing great finally. In the WHL, he's playing fantastic. And I think he has definitely put himself in the conversation to not just be on the Canadian roster, but to be the Canadian starter. For the backup goaltender, I have Michael DiPietro of the Vancouver Canucks. Now, this guy was going into the season looked at as the starter for Team Canada, at least the favorite to be the starter. Then Ian Scott just came into the fold, and I think replaced that expectation on him. But I feel like Michael DiPietro has played well enough so far to really get that chance, and I think right now he's in the OHL, but when it comes down to it, I feel like he's played well enough. And of course, the Canadian prospect pool when it comes to goalies is not the greatest when it comes to World Junior Championship eligible players, but it's pretty much, I think, Ian Scott and Michael DiPietro, and he's played well enough to, I think, get a big role in the World Junior Championships, whether he starts or not. Now, as an added bonus for you beautiful people, let's go through the power play 1 for Team Canada. And for this line, I had a mixture, but I got a little bit of creativity, and you guys will see. Now, on the left wing, I have Alexis Lafreniere. Can you really blame me? Okay, I tried to go a little bit creative with this, but I feel like Lafreniere on the power play with Team Canada is going to give him a massive amount of experience that putting him on the 4th line just won't do. And while I'm not sure who Team Canada's coach will be, I feel like putting Alexis Lafreniere with the skills that he has on the power play might just benefit him and the team in the long run. Then you got Cody Glass, who is freaking Cody Glass. He's amazing. And on the right wing, I have Trey Fix-Lewanski, who is, again, one of the best players overall with Team Canada. Now, for the defensemen on this power play, I'm going to just pretty much have the first defensive pairing in Ty Smith and Evan Bouchard. Especially Evan Bouchard, I think is going to be critical for this power play for Team Canada. Him having experience with the Edmonton Oilers, and I think he did play power play time in Edmonton. Don't quote me on that. But Evan Bouchard will really be the guy that rises and falls with this power play. He's going to be the guy that Canada does rely on if they're going to want to get any goals from this unit. And as an extra bonus, I'm going to just throw in the penalty kill. Now, I'm going to first put in as the forwards Maxime Comtois and Barrett Hayton. Both of these guys have big time defense, and of course Maxime Comtois, having experience in the NHL, knows how to be feisty, especially with the Anaheim Ducks, and I feel like he'll be a massive player on this penalty kill that will do a lot of different things and really aggravate a little bit of the other team. And with Barrett Hayton, he's just pure defense. He knows how to work with that. Now, the defenseman on the penalty kill, I first have Pierre-Oliver Joseph, and I have Evan Bouchard on the right side. But I think this penalty kill lives and dies by Pierre-Oliver Joseph. When it comes down to him, his defense is superb, and I really like that side of his game. And I feel like putting him on the penalty kill is going to give him a big opportunity, but I think he's going to seize that opportunity and play really solidly. With Evan Bouchard, he's playing the NHL, and he'll be really feisty on those pucks, which on the penalty kill, you definitely need. Now, whatever the lines end up being, Team Canada is going to have a strong shot to compete in this year's World Junior Championships. With the team that I laid out, I think they'll have a solid chance. They'll definitely be competing in the top 5, I think, when it comes to strong teams. Now, I wouldn't call Team Canada the favorites, but when it comes down to it, last year taught me one thing: do not count out this team. And with Team Canada, they're going to have a massive crowd in Vancouver, and they're going to have big expectations to get something done, to get that gold medal. And of course, being in Vancouver, the World Junior Championships being hosted in Vancouver, Team Canada is going to have a lot of expectations, and some pretty lofty ones at that, even if they're not the best team on paper. So while Team Canada is definitely not my favorites, I'm going to be keeping close eye on them because they're a very interesting team that, just like last year, may not be the favorite, but don't count them out ever, because when you do that, they'll be right back at the top. But with that, I want to hear your guys' thoughts. So let me know down below in the comments your thoughts on my roster predictions. Do you agree with them? Do you disagree, and why? And of course, what do you think about Canada going into this year's World Junior Championships? Do you expect them to win the gold medal, or do you expect them to fall short? Now, if you guys want some more grab videos, you can watch this video where I talk about the 2019 World Junior Championships and my predictions for Team USA's roster. But that is going for today, guys. If you guys did enjoy, make sure you like and subscribe. Hit that notification bell if you haven't already. Again, tell me down below your thoughts on my team and my predictions and your predictions for Team Canada's roster. I'll see you guys in the next video or stream. Goodbye.